Shub, thanks so much for being with us and congrats on the new album. Let's start with Heritage Part 1. Many are familiar, of course, with your DJ work, whether it's with a Tribe Called Red or the Haluchi Nation, or even your work on the Grizzly soundtrack. But you dropped the DJ moniker and added some new duties, including label head. What can you tell us about Heritage Part 1?
Well, Heritage Part 1 I've been working on for a couple years now, and it's kind of like a culmination of a lot of things, and musically where I am right now, where I stand, and you know, my journey throughout those years, like you just mentioned, you know, making powwow-step and DJing and everything like that. And I think it's a natural evolution of where my music is going to go. And personally, you know, like as I get older too, you know, I'm not getting any younger, you know, my taste for music has changed a bit, you know, and just the way I attack music now is more different than I used to. You know, before it was kind of just like, you know, banging out so many songs as I can and what's the new style sort of thing. So, but now it's just more of a journey and just like taking it easy and writing what I want to write, you know, and enjoying it. You know, not that I didn't necessarily enjoy it before, but now it's just it's enjoying it on another level.
Well, and I can imagine these tracks are going to be a huge hit on the festival circuit this summer. You got some big shows coming up and some great collaborations on the album too. What's the process for you for deciding who to collaborate with?
Well, it's kind of just like a bucket list. You know, I put together every year when I attack an album, when I start doing an album, I don't necessarily have artists in mind when I make music. It's sort of just like I make the music and they kind of sit there, and I write down a list of people that I would love to work with, and I kind of just fit it like a puzzle. I'm like, okay, well, you know, I think so-and-so would sound really good on this one. So then I just send it to them. And then I get their feedback. They either really love it or they kind of like, this is sort of not my style, but the majority of the time they're like super excited about it. And for me personally, I love seeing that where that collaboration comes in. What can they bring to that? Because I know, you know, all the artists that I have on my album, how special they are and how unique they are and how amazing they are. So I just kind of let them work their magic, you know what I mean? And it just comes together organically, and it's just so amazing. Like the collaborators I had on this album, Part 1 and as well as Part 2 that's coming out soon, is everybody that was on my bucket list. So it's pretty amazing to work with all these amazing artists.
No kidding. Well, during the month of May, you were also curating Spotify's Indigenous playlist. Can you tell us about some of the artists you selected and why you wanted to highlight them?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, artistically, you know, as far as the artist goes, I think it's a chance for them to everybody to hear them, you know, and get hyped about them as much as I do. You know, like these are artists that I listen to that are on my playlist, and you know, it's artists that I think deserve a lot of shine, you know, and deserve that spotlight, because in the end, it's bigger than us, you know, it's bigger than we are. It's about our community, and it's about shining light on the community and where we come from. The stories that are told aren't necessarily are stories that are told through music. You know, music is the best way to hit people with. So I think that's the biggest part. And personally, you know, being a kid from making beats in my basement, you know what I mean, to having a billboard in Dundas Square is pretty mind-blowing to me. So I mean, to have that happen, and you know, all of this to happen is pretty amazing.
Yeah, we've spoken with a couple of people who've done the Spotify playlist, and the billboard in Dundas Square always seems to be a pretty big moment for sure.
Totally.
Going back to your own music, you kind of touched on it there. Heritage Part 1 is barely 2 months old, I think, here, but Part 2's on the way. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the original, the album was a lot of tracks. When we finished, we ended up having the album in front of our eyes here, and we're like, okay, well, this is a lot of songs, you know. So, and just in the fact that, like, you know, the way music gets released these days, and the way people, the listeners, listen to music, it's very what's next kind of thing, you know. So instead of releasing a 25, 30 track album, we split it up in two. So we decided to do that more of a social and marketing way, just to see what happens that way. And the response is amazing. Like we've had a ton of response to it, and people are, we really haven't talked about the release date for part two yet, but we've been mentioning that there is a part two coming, and people are excited about that. But like you said, part one is still fresh in everybody's mind, and the tracks are still, people are still listening to these tracks. So it's exciting overall. It kind of, when you release one album, it's released and that's it. You know what I mean? So but now that I know that something else is coming, it's kind of it keeps the chills going. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and bless you for doing that. Nothing more daunting than opening an album and seeing it's an hour and 45 minutes long. So yeah, let's enjoy part one. Looking forward to part two. Really appreciate you taking some time for us here today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.